HEX just had its first 3x move since the bull run of 2021. And it's been one of the absolute best performance of the last bull run, nailing a crazy 10,000x from its bottom to its peak at 50 something cents. And today, guys, we're gonna analyze HEX. Now, regardless, people deem it as a controversial coin and maybe it's a scam coin and stuff like that. Guys, it doesn't matter. People were saying that about Bitcoin and about Ethereum. What just matters is, does this coin perform well? Does its price action look awesome or is it not? And this is why I'm here, just to analyze what HEX has done so far, what can it do in the future, and what has it done recently. So this is what we're gonna do today. So this is another AR7 crypto channel. Today we're going on HEX, the 10,000x from the 2020 until 2021, and of course we're gonna go and understand what can HEX really do in the next bull run. So first of all, guys, let's start with a really nice pump here of a 3x that HEX has done, which is something that I really like, right? Because I was thinking about making a video and I was thinking of really analyzing what HEX was doing. I didn't like how it wasn't able to really show really some significant strength, and you can see like the pumps that it had weren't so impressive and they were sold off quite quickly. And then we at least so far we've bottomed at the 1.7 cents region, and then finally we've had a really impressive upthrust in HEX price, just recently in February 2023. But that being said, I also like that it's kind of recovering specifically today, because yesterday Bitcoin dumped quite severely from the 22k level. So some altcoins are performing not very bad in this particular day, which HEX also does that, and that is also pretty nice for me to see, because normally when Bitcoin is dumping, we want to see who shows the strength, at least in the beginning. So HEX is definitely among the ones that are showing strength right now. So this is really not bad, but because Bitcoin and the general crypto can still dump even from here, and to my understanding, Richard Hart, the founder of HEX, actually expects Bitcoin to go to 11k. So I don't know if that's gonna happen, but if it is gonna happen, so all altcoins are gonna have even more severe downside. So I think, generally speaking, I think it's not a very bad time to start considering, getting some position into altcoins. None of this is financial advice, such as HEX. Who knows? Maybe this was the bottom. Maybe the bottom will be lower. But generally speaking, by the next bull run, all of these levels here for HEX and for Bitcoin and Ethereum and many other altcoins, these levels right now could be not very bad right now to start considering. So when it comes to the tokenomics of HEX, I'm not gonna go very deeply into that in this video, just because HEX is considered among the really better coins out there when it comes to their tokenomics, and they basically try to create a better Bitcoin from what they say, and they want to really have as many people as possible just lock the coins and sort of delay gratification, as Richard Hart is saying, until the longest time frames possible. I believe some people stake HEX for like 15 years or 10 years, some crazy stuff like that. So when it comes to the tokenomics, HEX is pretty good in my opinion, so I'm not gonna go very deeply into that. So in this video, we're gonna analyze more deeply the price action that HEX has had in the past, and also its on-chain activity. So before we go to the price, let's start with the on-chain activity, because there is really some interesting difference in the 3 years of HEX existence. Okay, so normally in my videos, guys, I like to analyze also on-chain what is going on. Now, regardless of the fact that HEX are trying to create a coin that is similar to Bitcoin in the sense of that, you just want to hodl it and just not touch it ever and not send it anywhere. At the end of the day, every time we have new people buy in, you will be seeing more and more transactions on-chain, on the Ethereum blockchain, with HEX. So still, even for a coin like HEX, it's very relevant to see just how many transfers do you really have on the blockchain with this particular coin. So as we can see, HEX was launched, and it had a lot of transactions in the very beginning of HEX, but then you see, so one of the really major moves in HEX's price, like basically over here, okay, in the very first half year in HEX's price history, it had already done 100x. So the most significant opportunity in HEX was really here, okay, between December 2019 until the pump here in May 2020. Of course, still here you also had some really nice upside from approximately 0.5, 0.3 cents to be above 50 cents. So there was still even above 100x of a possibility from here, but this was really like the major opportunity for HEX. Okay, so and over here the amount of transactions wasn't that low, okay, because like HEX was airdropped to Bitcoin holders, and you know, Richard Hart was already a pretty famous crypto person by then, so there was a decent amount of transactions in the beginning, in this beginning phase, okay. But after that, you know, here and there we have like big spikes, so I don't really care about the big spikes. I more care about actually when finally the transactions become kind of silent and nothing really major starts to happen. So let's see the first thing that we can analyze in 2020. Okay, so once the transactions finally started getting a little bit more kind of relaxed, we basically had amount of transactions that were in the 3 figures per day. Okay, and as you can see, HEX was really consolidating here from May 2020 until it finally broke it here in approximately March 2021. It was basically consolidating here between 0.0203 cents until a cent and a little, 1 cent and a little bit, okay. And but the amount of transactions was actually going kind of lower and lower and lower, and sort of consolidating here at the 500-ish, okay. But then check this out. Then in late September 2020 and October 2020 and so on, and see, this is still late 2020. We actually like consolidated, okay, and don't really look at these spikes. I just look at what are the consolidated amount, what is the consolidated amount of transactions, and you know, then it finally got here to the thousands, okay, after it was in the hundreds. And basically over here you started having those glimpses, those hints that HEX is starting to become undervalued. Why? Because HEX price remained approximately the same. You see, it even went down here from November to December 2020, but the amount of transactions was getting higher and getting higher, which probably shows that we just had more and more accumulation of HEX in late 2020. So from late 2020, just having more on-chain activity on HEX, we could see that price started being undervalued, and it started showing us that there could be more upside, okay, potential for HEX. And then of course HEX did go higher. Now guys, when we go to 2021, this is gonna be interesting, okay. So after we consolidated at the thousands of transactions, okay, we again went slightly lower here before we started pumping back, okay, back to the thousands, okay. So again, everything became a little bit quiet, and then finally in April, May 2021, HEX started breaking out, and basically it did something here like almost like a 50x from 1 cent to 50 cents. 50 cents, okay, between March 2021 and September 2021. And basically over here, guys, you can see that we remained approximately in the thousands of transactions, okay, between 1,000 to something like maybe 3,000-4,000 at the consolidation levels throughout 2021, okay, which were the amount of transactions that we've had in late 2020, okay. So basically with the same amount of transactions, we were able to make this move from 1 cent to approximately 50 cents for HEX. But then of course we started having the bear market finally start, and of course HEX corrected in a big way. And now guys, this is going to be really interesting to now see 2022 and 2023, okay. Now why 2022 was interesting? Because 2022 was the bear market year, okay, and actually you can see in the gas fees of Ethereum, like many people left crypto, but you can see that actually HEX still has approximately the same amount of transactions that it had in 2021 in the bull run. And the price did go down quite severely here from like 50 cents to approximately 1 cent and something, okay. But we've had the same amount of transactions happening on chain for HEX, okay. And lastly guys, the interesting thing is that recently, thanks to its price pump that it had, it started going upwards once again, okay. The transactions are starting to get to 6K, 8K, and it's gonna be interesting to see, like, are we actually gonna consolidate at like the higher thousands instead of the lower thousands, okay, similarly to what happened in late 2020 when it was like the big kind of signal that HEX is waiting to explode in the bull run. So I'm gonna watch for that. But even if HEX transaction counts are gonna drop back to approximately to the 2-3K region, we already know that with the same amount of transactions of HEX, we were able to really reach, you know, the 50 cent region. Okay, so that's when it comes to the on-chain part. Now, the next part that I want to analyze, guys, is really the past performance of HEX price. Okay, guys, so one of the major things that Richard Hart likes to compare when it comes to HEX is he likes to actually compare HEX to Ethereum, thanks to the really crazy multiples that they both had. And I think I found some really interesting similarities between HEX and Ethereum that I'd like to share with you and compare between the two. And from that, to try to understand where is HEX right now in the adoption rate when it's compared to Ethereum. So in the very beginning, guys, as you maybe know, the really major opportunity in HEX was approximately here, but as you can see in the volume, like almost nobody really was able to buy at this low prices, and probably if somebody was able to, it was probably in very small amounts, maybe like $10 or so, or $50. But anyway, later, after you've had this first, so this was a 10x move, okay? So after this first significant 10x, HEX consolidated here in the volume of like 6 figures approximately, okay, between February until April 2020. And then this was like really the second biggest opportunity to buy HEX, when it still had a so from here to here it was a 10,000x, and from here to here it was a 1,000x. And over here we already had a volume of 6 figures. So over here people were able to buy like really decent amounts and really get rich in a huge way, on HEX between February 2020 until May 2020. So as we've mentioned, HEX consolidated here at 6 figures of volume or so. Now, when was Ethereum at 6 figures of volume? Let's find out. So Ethereum had 6 figures volume also in its very beginning, okay, in late 2015, as you can see, just when it was just under $1. Then when Ethereum started breaking the dollar, right, and then getting like to the $8 and $10 or so, then it consolidated at like 7 to 8 figures of volume per day, after it was at the 6 figures like HEX. Now guys, let's check out what happened with HEX later, okay? So as I've mentioned, this was like the 1000x opportunity, and then we've had another really major run, so this was another 10x, okay? So from here to here it was a 10x, then from here to here it was another 10x, and by this time we already had 100x on HEX by May 2020, and from here to here this was another 100x total. So as you can see over here, we finally had a lot more new people start to buy HEX, and HEX started being traded in a much more significant way. And now we finally had HEX consolidate at like 7 or sometimes 8, similarly to Ethereum, 7 to 8 figures of volume per day, okay? Now, of course, we've had another run, and we were kind of closer to the 9 figures at the peak. But this was like the mania, right? This was the peak of the bull run. So we want to compare to relatively more quiet times. And now, guys, actually, if we look at HEX in 2022, we're basically still in this region of 7 and more recently 8 figures of volume, okay, for HEX, which is equivalent to the really prices that we've had here in early 2021. And still we had 7 to 8 figures of volume, as we've said. So when we come back to Ethereum, guys, we also can remember that this was the volumes that Ethereum was basically consolidating here in 2016, when Ethereum was between $8 to $20, and then it finally broke out from these volumes of 7 to 8 figures of volume per day. It broke out of it in 2017 and never came back to the same valuations of like $10 to $20, right? So then Ethereum established itself with volumes at 9 to 10 figures when it was valued in the hundreds to thousands of dollars, okay? So I'm not saying that HEX is gonna be, valued and gonna have the exact same adoption as Ethereum, but at least if we compare the path of the volume and everything of HEX to Ethereum, which was very interestingly similar in Ethereum's early days, we can basically say that HEX's current prices, or at least more specifically also volumes, were equivalent to, to Ethereum, when Ethereum was like between, let's say, $10 to 40 something dollars, okay? And really from here you can see Ethereum shot off in a crazy way from April 2017, got to the 9 figures of of volume and never looked back ever again, and it never came back to the 40 something dollars. So current HEX price could be equivalent to Ethereum at these consolidation years. Okay, and by the way, these consolidation years were also like bear marketish and very severe for Ethereum at the time, because if we zoom in to Ethereum here, you can see that actually because if we zoom in to these times in Ethereum, right before it kind of pumped, you can see that it went all the way to $20 and actually corrected to like $6. So it basically had like a 70 something percent dump just in this year. Now HEX, because it had so much upside, right? So it corrected 90 something, 90 like 95% or something like that. So basically we can conclude that the current prices of HEX prices at like 4 cents is equivalent to approximately $40 for Ethereum. And of course, if HEX will correct again to like 1 to 2 cents, it's gonna be equivalent to $10 to $20 for Ethereum. Okay, now if if you do believe that HEX will have a shot really being big and major like Ethereum got to in 2021, it means that at the very least HEX can get to these valuations of $4,000 approximately, right? So for HEX it's gonna be like $4 for HEX. Okay, again, just if we compare to what Ethereum has done in the past and the volumes and everything for HEX. So that being said, again, if HEX does correct further here again to the 1 to 2 cents region, of course, it's gonna open the opportunity for higher multitude than 100x or a 200x. Yeah, guys, so that being said, with HEX that has done so tremendously well, and it has done a 10,000x in its first cycle, that was also actually not very far away from Ethereum's very first cycle, right? So if Ethereum did here something like from 50 something, just under 50 cents, I believe, right? 43 cents to more than 1,000, guys, right? So it wasn't exactly a 10,000x, but it was quite equivalent to what HEX has done in its first kind of cycle. Okay, so if HEX is gonna have a new cycle similarly to Ethereum, right? And if it in Ethereum's case, it kind of corrected up until 80 something dollars. So let's say HEX has corrected to equivalent of 40 something dollars. It means that by 2024, 2025, none of this is financial advice, HEX should be able to get to this region of $4, right? And the really nice thing, guys, is that even at these current valuations, like because the bear market was so severe, like just getting back to the all-time high is still gonna be more than a 10x. So that's gonna be absolutely awesome for HEX. So that being said, we'll have to follow what is gonna happen next with HEX and Pulse-Chain and everything related to Richard Hart. But to me, at the moment, non-financial advice. The way I see it, a 10x on HEX looks quite easy just because it was already the all-time high, and we still see like signs of strength that that it's not really becoming a dead coin, that it's still every time like the general crypto has a good upside, HEX is not left behind and is having a 3x just like it showed in the past few weeks. So that being said, to me personally, I will be watching HEX that like doing just a 10x, like getting to 50 cents is gonna be pretty easy. And then it's gonna be super interesting to really follow, how much further up can HEX get? Can it really get to these valuations similarly to Ethereum by the next cycle, right? So if that was the first cycle and this is the second cycle, can HEX really get to like $4 to $5 by the next cycle? I think it's gonna be possible, right? But we're gonna need to keep watching, of course. And that was the video for this Sunday. So guys, I'm gonna see you next Sunday. Once again, I'm here every single Sunday. It's a fantastic opportunity, so to subscribe and join me in this nice journey if you haven't already. So have yourself, guys, a fantastic weekend and a fantastic week ahead, and see you guys on next Sunday.